Hello everyone and welcome to another entry in our Community Cast series. In this game we're going to have a showdown between Zablosky, who's going to be playing the Wood Elves, and he does also appear to have two Sisters of Thorn, and he's going to be facing off against Art of War, who's going to be playing the Empire. So let's jump right into this game, guys, and take a look at some of the army compositions. So for the Wood Elves in the front line, they do have an entire front line of Eternal Guards, and Eternal Guards are just a solid infantry unit in general, but I also think they're a pretty good choice against the Empire for a multitude of reasons. Number one, they do have Silver Shields, and often this matchup is a very heavy missile matchup. You're going to be seeing a lot of Glade Guards, Handgunners, and sometimes crossbows, so I definitely think that's, a pretty useful tool. Granted, it's not the main thing that makes them powerful. On top of that, they have very high melee defense, excellent leadership, they have an anti-large bonus, and they also have armor piercing. So they're kind of a jack of all trades unit. They can hold the front line against pretty, heavy infantry because they have that armor piercing. They're also good against shock damage because of their high melee defense. Granted, factions like Chaos can definitely punish these guys pretty hard with Forsaken, and Empire doesn't really have infantry that hit quite that hard, so I feel like Eternal Guards are just this perfect fit against the Empire. So they're also here in the front line. Granted, War Dancers and things like that aren't bad against the Empire also because War Dancers hit very hard. Granted, they're squishy, so they can be punished by missile fire and nets of Amnitalk and things like that. But, I think these guys are kind of the safe pick here. On top of that, he does have the Glade Guards with the Starfire Shaft, so this is going to be kind of the hammer in your army. These guys are really going to do the heavy damage. They have a good armor piercing, fire damage. I don't know if there's anything the Empire has that is weak to fire, but nonetheless, it's kind of a cool thing to have, and, against vampire counts and Norska especially. But having armor piercing is really essential on these guys because the Empire is going to be pressuring you with a ton of heavily armored units. Well, more specifically, their lords are all heavily armored, and you're going to be facing Zintler's Reichsguard, Demogryph Knights, Knights of the Blazing Sun, all that kind of stuff. So having these guys with that armor piercing missile attack is definitely quite useful. And to really get your value out of all of these guys, you definitely need to bring the Glady. So the Glady does have the Prey of an Rama, which is essentially a snare ability. So it's like the FG of the Get, or a multitude of other abilities. I think I'm trying to think. Yeah, Wolfric the Wanderer, his ability doesn't actually fully snare; it actually just slows. But FG of the Get is something similar in the Warp Gaze of the new Regiment of Renown, Sigor. So in the back, he does also have a Spellsinger with the Lore of Life. So this he's definitely being a gentleman here. You can see he does have Regrowth as well as Earthblood, so he's not going to be using the Dweller's Blow, and he does also have a Scroll of Power. So that's going to lower the recharge rate of his abilities. In the flanks, he does have the Loex Tricksters, so these are the Regiment of Renown of War Dancers with Azurai Spears, and these guys are awesome. 61 melee defense is really, really solid against enemy cav. They also have great melee attack. They hit pretty hard and have an anti-large bonus. And something else that's pretty cool, they do have an ability called Loex Shroud. So if you're in the forest like this and enemy cav are coming, you can pop that Shroud, which will give them stock, and then get a pretty advantageous charge on those type of units. So I definitely like that quite a bit. On the far side, he has more War Dancers with Azurai Spears, which I think are pretty good against Empire. And I think he has a Deep Vanguard, so the Sisters of Thorn. So these are a unit that you don't see terribly often, but that's actually kind of cool, that blue hue they have on the antlers and the armor. But they have the Curse of Onrare, which gives negative speed and lowers accuracy, so you can actually cast out on enemy missile units if they're trying to run or shoot at you. On top of that, they do have Shield of Thorns, so they can actually buff nearby units. So pretty cool utility unit. Very, very difficult to make these guys work, for sure. But, they got some cool niches. So for the Empire, in the front line, they do have a bunch of Spearmen with shields, which isn't bad. You're going to be seeing some large units. Wild Riders might be coming in. And, if you have Swordsmen in the front line, they can get run over by Wild Riders pretty hard. But, these guys are kind of a cool insurance against that. He does have a Warrior Priest right here, and he probably just has a few of the abilities. So, yeah, he has the Shield of Faith to kind of buff his allies. He also has the Grand Hammer of Sigmar and Benediction. So, Benediction is a pretty cool way of giving your state troops and those relatively low-tier frontline troops, which you're going to bring against Wood Elves, additional leadership. So, I like that quite a bit. In the secondary line, a bunch of Free Company militia, some crossbowmen, a little bit of a mishmash of different missile units. For his lord, he does have a General of the Empire, actually on foot, which is interesting. I definitely think having him on a mountain is a little bit better, but nonetheless, we'll see how it does. He does also have the potion. So a similar formation over here, a bunch of spears in the front line with some swordsmen, and I definitely think swordsmen are a really, really big performer against Wood Elves because they have actually pretty good combat stats. So 33 and 33 and 28. I mean, against Eternal Guards, that's pretty good. They do have higher melee attack, and their leadership isn't, I don't think they're as good as Eternal Guards, but I definitely think they're a decent choice. A bunch of missiles back here, so he has a ton of missiles. It looks like he has 4 groups here and 4 groups here, a bunch of state troops kind of protecting in the front line. Great cannon in the back, which isn't bad. It can poke down this dragon or maybe target some of these high value units here. And what else does he have? Yeah, it looks like he has an Empire Captain and Knights of the Blazing Sun. So he actually does have silver chevrons on these guys. So they're going to be monsters. And, in this matchup, I definitely don't think the Wood Elves should bring Wild Riders because Empire Cav can just shut them down so horribly. Knights of the Blazing Sun and Zintler's Reichsguard or Reichsguard in general just basically run over the Wild Riders because Wild Riders, they hit hard, but they have very, very low armor piercing. So they definitely struggle to get through the 100 armor of these guys. So guys, without further ado, let the games begin. So you can see right now the Empire is going to be advancing their firing line. The cannon cannon is also shooting at the Winterheart Guard, which is probably one of the stronger frontline troops, so not a bad idea getting rid of that. The Free Company militia are obviously very, very heavily outranged here, so the Glade Guards with the Starfire Shaft should be able to outtrade, and you can see that these Free Company here are coming in a little bit of an angle. Definitely very well played by Art of War there, using the trees to kind of cover his initial approach. Granted, it's not really going to matter, in the long run. They're just going to get gunned down. But they actually get a really good volley on these Eternal Guards, and this is kind of the reason I was talking about why shields are important, because in this matchup, there is a lot of missile trade. So, that's 50% of that damage mitigated that's coming in. And these guys are just getting cut to pieces. Also, another thing about handgunners, they don't have a good arc, so they can't necessarily shoot behind these Glade Guards as efficiently, or shoot over the front line like, crossbows and these guys can. So, that's another reason why shields are good, because your front line is going to be taking a lot of fire. So you can see in the entire front line, all of these Wood Elf troops are taking a bit of work, and the Free Company militia are actually advancing pretty aggressively. So I'm not sure if they're going to be going in melee and trying to fight, or if they're just kind of baiting out this ammunition, but they actually do get some decent fire on those Glade Guards in the back, but definitely it's a little bit rough. But ultimately, the Sisters of Thorn did come in the back and try to jump these crossbowmen, but they ambush in the forest. So Art of War did have these Reichsguard right here, or excuse me, Knights of the Blazing Sun hiding in the forest. He uses a net of Amnitok, which I actually didn't see his wizard who had that, but I guess he's lurking around somewhere. And he got that net of Amnitok, and you can see the Sisters of Thorn are just being sandwiched by spears and swords, and then the Knights of the Blazing Sun are collapsing on the top. So this is just such a huge blow to the Wood Elves, because Sisters of Thorn are very expensive. And he probably thought that he had a pretty good, situation here. The crossbows, when you looked at it on paper, the crossbows looked very exposed. So he just came through here. There was no spears guarding it. It was very, very good bait for sure. So the crossbows obviously took a little bit of damage, but the Sisters of Thorn took a beating. You can see that Zabloski is using Earthblood to kind of not upgrade. Well, I saw upgrade and I was like, they're getting upgraded. But no, to heal these guys and try and keep them alive. But it's probably, I don't know if it's worth it at this point. You probably just want to let them go. But looks like the Sisters of Thorn might get away. Yeah, they're going to break and scurry away. So in the main fight, you can see some of these Free Company militia who charged in and tried to get a little bit of gunfire are routing off the battlefield. And some of these Glade Guards are getting pretty good fire on the missile units. However, they are running out of ammunition a little bit. So you can see they're all at about half ammunition. And, the Free Company did take a beating, but they might rally here. Well, not these ones. They're at 21 models. But in the front line, the Eternal Guards have engaged here. You can see this Warrior Priest is kind of doesn't it look like he has a mustache? That looks like he has a mustache right now. I think that's actually just like blood splatter on his face, but it totally looks like that Warrior Priest is just rocking a power stash. But maybe that'll be the thumbnail if I can remember. But he comes in with a big underhanded swing. It's just gonna, the double decapitation. Oh man, that's like some WWE commentary stuff. He literally just came with that underhook and just decapitated two of those guys. And that was definitely one of the most gangster kill animations with that power stash I've seen in quite some time. Nonetheless, the Eternal Guards are gonna do okay in the front line, but that Shield of Faith is really gonna mitigate a lot of their already low damage. He does have the War Dancers with Azurai Spears running up and around the flank, and they are very fast. They have 48 move speed. Some very good missile fire from the Empire, shooting down this Glade Lord up here, who's sitting here a little bit in a dangerous situation, but a nice net of Amnitok from the Empire, and all this Free Company fire and crossbows are now just going to get the tee off on him. But also very well played by Zabloski, popping that potion. Very, very good, important time to do that. So over in the flanks, the Eternal Guards are holding up pretty well. The War Dancers with Azurai Spears are kind of realizing that there's not really going to be any pressure in the back line, so they're just going to push out probably and help out in the main fight. The Sisters of Thorn are back online. They're doing some kiting. You can see they're probably going to apply some poison to this Empire Captain and probably help them get away, but man, they did take a huge beating in that ambush there, so definitely some tough stuff. You can also see an Earthblood is going to be going down right here, keeping these low-X tricksters in the front line fighting. Granted, this isn't where you want them. I mean, they will obviously beat swordsmen 1-to-1, but in terms of just a pure cost analysis of trade, they're going to take a ton of damage. They only have 15 armor. Their melee defense is very high, but just that pure density of swordsmen attacking them is going to be really rough. You want them fighting elite troops generally, but there isn't really any options for them. Granted, they could be chasing in the back line, but this front line was about to collapse and expose these Glade Guards right here, so I definitely see his reason with going after those. Over here on the far side, the Warrior Priest, the power stash with that uppercut, is going to be pushing after these Glade Guards with the Starfire Shafts, and these swordsmen are just going to, cut these guys to pieces. You can see it's a pretty bad situation. Look at these state troops; they're just so angry looking, and they got that Warrior Priest leading them. I really, really like that. I've seen a lot of people doing that on ladder, where they bring a Warrior Priest just with like Benediction even, and the ward save ability, but they're going to kind of chase these guys off the battlefield most likely. This other group's pretty healthy, but even them, they're at like 10% ammunition. You can see the Spellsinger with the Lore of Life is popping the Arcane Conduit, and guys, let's go ahead and look at everything. It's a pretty wild battle. So over here, the Sisters of Thorn have been doing their best to kite these guys down with the curse, but still, when an infantry or a cav, well, I should say cav unit, when a cav unit gets close to something, even if they're a little bit slower, they do get a charge acceleration. So they're able to kind of catch those guys, it looks like, and the Sisters of Thorn are pretty much offline. Yeah, those Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to shut them down. So back to the main battle. You can see these Wood Elf missiles are getting a little bit of healthy crossfire here, but the swordsmen are not good units to shoot. And, you know, that's kind of why when you play the Empire, I definitely think it's good to just bring a ton of swordsmen and just things that, you know, aren't cost effective for the Glade Guards to shoot at. Because, like, Wood Elf infantry is decent, but, you know, again, it can be gunned down, and it's not, like, the most sturdy front line. But over here, these Glade Guards are going to run away. They do have the Spellsinger kind of protecting them, and, you know, some decent fire right here. The General of the Empire, I wonder if, I doubt he's popped his potion yet, so that's definitely going to be something the Wood Elves are going to have to deal with. But over here, the Eternal Guards are still fighting pretty hard in the front line, and the Low Extractors have racked up 94 kills. So, I mean, truly a testament to this Regiment of Renown, because if you look at regular Azrai Spears, I mean, their stats are nowhere near as good as these guys. They have 49 melee attack, which is so high for, like, a defensive type unit. And I think there's some more Azrai Spears. The Winterheart Guards are actually in pretty good shape, so the Wood Elves are probably going to collapse right here. But you guys can see the balance of power is rapidly shifting. So the Wood Elves are probably going to start suffering army losses pretty quick. It's down to, like, you know, almost 30%, which is definitely a rough situation. But it doesn't look as bad as this balance of power indicates. Granted, I think it's because this Glade Lord is so darn low. He's at about, like, you know, 10% and has 500 HP. But oh no, the Doombringers, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, are coming from the forest, led by an Empire captain, and they're just going to get a devastating charge on these Glade Guards who are out of ammunition, and they definitely have one of the cooler charges in the game. So they get in there, a little bit of charge point for you guys, and yeah, they're just not going to have a good time. So they'll probably just clean these guys up and then move over to these Glade Guards pretty quick here. So a lot of shock damage. You can see their HP tanks down about 15-20%. And, you know, Knights of the Blazing Sun don't have bad sustained combat stats, and they do have 47 melee attack and 42 melee strength, so you can see they're just kind of riding around cleaning up shop. I'd say Empire Captain does shoot that Glade Lord pretty, well, not Empire Captain, excuse me, the Great Cannon is shooting at that Glade Lord over there. So he's going to have to run. He's at 5 leadership. Granted, he still does have almost full ammunition, or she, and she can definitely kind of shoot down here and maybe pick off a few of these Knights of the Blazing Sun, so hopefully he can, like, kind of rally here. He does also have the Spellsinger with the Lore of Life, so perhaps he still does have some Winds of Magic. We're not sure yet, but, you know, time will tell. So over here in the back line, you can see the Winterheart Guards are definitely on a mission. They're trying to chase down the last of these missiles, which definitely isn't a bad idea. You can see the Low Extractors right here. It looks like, well, there's 35 models. Where are the other 35? Are they kind of like disjointed? That does happen sometimes. It's kind of weird. But it looks like, yeah, oh, they're way ahead over here. So these guys are going to be shutting down the cannon. So very, very well played by Zabloski, even though he's, like, you know, really far behind on the balance of power, not giving up on his micro. And he's going to be pushing these guys in and probably shutting down this cannon right here. And the Low Extractors, these guys have definitely, you know, win or lose, they've definitely earned some MVP status this game. But you can see some of these Free Company militia are back online. They're going to start shooting at these guys in the back, and the Low Extractors and Board Enters in general are very, very susceptible to missile fire. You can see there's a little bit of a crossfire going on, so he's just doing his best. He's popped this Storm of Blades to give them that extra melee attack, because they don't need the melee defense right now. They're just killing a cannon crew, so he's definitely trying to optimize their lifespan, because they are not unbreakable like the Winterheart Guards. Knights of the Blazing Sun are coming in, 34 models. Even though these guys are meant against Knights of the Blazing Sun, they're still going to take some massive shock damage. So you guys will see them coming in pretty hot right here. They're going to just run these guys down, just smashing them against the trees and their fellow Empire troops. So definitely a rough fate for them. These guys are probably going to break off the battlefield. Yeah, they're poor leadership right now. So up on the high ground, it looks like the Glade Lord was able to heal. I think he did have an Earthblood, and he's actually able to kill the General of the Empire. So the General of the Empire is at 200 HP. Well, he's not dead yet, but he's most likely going to die against this giant angry forest dragon. So he's getting tossed around a little bit. 230 HP, negative 48 leadership. He might even shatter here in a moment. So it looks like the bounce of power has gone a little bit back towards the Wood Elves, but still the Empire has a massive force in the middle. They're kind of unifying their missiles, which is a very, very smart tactic, trying to get that kind of a center force, because you don't want anything isolated. Granted, the Wood Elves don't really have anything to punish isolation. Over here, they do have, let's see what these are. So Glade Guards with Starfire Shafts, a little bit of ammunition. Over here in the forest, they do have yeah, this group is out of ammunition anyways. And they also have dragged this Warrior Priest basically into the Shadow Realm. It's going to take him another, like, 5 minutes to run back to the battle. But the Empire still does have leadership. They did lose their Lord there, and they are facing off against a, you know, pretty powerful dragon. Probably still has a, well, he didn't actually bring Arrows of Currents, but he does have the Prey of Anothrama still, so he might be able to get some good isolation. You can see over here the Winterheart Guards, all 8 of them, putting up a pretty hard fight right here, and yeah, 69 kills ain't bad. That's what she said, and yeah, they're doing pretty well. These Spearmen are, you know, going to finish them off, obviously, but, you know, they're doing their best right here. So let's go ahead and look around, see what else we got going on. Yeah, so Glade Guards up here, out of ammunition, just going to get shut down by this Empire Captain. So the Wood Elves don't seem to really have much left. I mean, they have this Glade Lord who's in pretty good shape, and with Prey of Anothrama, he can break the charge of these Knights of the Blazing Sun, who are not immune to psychology. Granted, they do also appear to have some magic resistance, so they're going to mitigate some of the damage from that Glade Lord, which is a very nice little perk there in the 4th quarter. Some of these Low Extractors are still online. These things are just monsters. Look at them, just like, you know, all 8 of them just still fighting and chasing down some of these guys. And they also do have a Low X Shroud, so they're getting that speed bonus, and they're going to probably honestly be able to take off this entire group of handgunners, which is awesome. You see them doing some, oh, look at those acrobatics. I've never actually looked at those guys up close, but they do some really, really cool moves for sure. But Bounce of Power is still about 30-40%, maybe yeah, I would say about 35%, give or take. And this Glade Lord is starting to, generate a little bit of value. He's picking off these units as they're trying to route, gather here in the middle. And the Empire doesn't really have much leadership. They have a ton of tattered infantry, all of whom are very, very susceptible to terror routing. So guys, for the sake of this entertainment here, we're going to fast forward a little bit just to make sure we can kind of let everyone gather and then get you guys right to the action. So this dragon right now, it's able to use the Prey of Anathrama on this warrior priest, and he does have some of these missile units, these Glade Guards, probably about to run out of ammunition, but he's getting a little bit of damage here. But I think he kind of decided there that he just wants to sit and shoot. As far as other ground troops go, he does have the Loyal Tricksters up here. 9 of them, they're probably going to get chased off by that Empire Captain, but they might actually do some okay work. Nope, negative 11 leadership, they're wavering. Going to get pushed off the battlefield here. So the Wood Elves all do also have a Spellslinger with the Lore of Life up on the high ground. He's probably going to want to get that down to like fighting somehow, because I mean that's a pretty strong combatant with 600 HP, which at this point in the game isn't bad. That Warrior Priest, though, is definitely going to be tough. He probably, is going to be providing those buffs, and if the Glade Lord does land, he's going to be hitting, relatively hard. I'm always surprised. I feel like Warrior Priest should have like 400 weapon strength and like at least 80 or 90 armor. Their armor feels so darn low. He still does have some Eternal Guards here, actually. I didn't notice those guys. So he does land with his Forest Dragon right here. He's probably going to get 1 or 2 kills, which is going to be nice. And these guys are steady. Their leadership's at 38. And this dragon, I mean, it does have Fear and Terror and 450 weapon strength. It also does have Poison. So that's something that's pretty cool about the Wood Elf Dragons. It does have Poison. It's going to be pretty neat in Total War Warhammer 2, seeing the breath attacks on those guys. So the Knights of the Blazing Sun definitely being very, very conservative, trying to stay close to their team. They don't want to get isolated because that dragon could terror route these guys. And then, if they terror routed, I feel like there would be a bit of a chain reaction. So the Wood Elves do have this last bastion here in the forest, and you can see the Knights of the Blazing Sun, getting ready to charge in the fourth quarter, and they do charge into the missiles, which is definitely good because, these guys don't have a, anti-charge bonus, and what it's going to do is force these guys to move, and then once they move, they're not going to be braced, and the Knights of the Blazing Sun should be able to, maybe pull back and charge them again, not sure. But you can also see this dragon up here is going to be landing and maybe pick off a few of these guys. Let's see how many. Oh, a nice Prey of Anathrama. So they're a little bit away. There's some Eternal Guards fighting. The other troops aren't quite here yet, so this is a great opportunity to kind of punish some of these guys, and they're shaken, they're exhausted. So when units are exhausted, I believe it does kind of penalize their leadership as well. So they're actually, they're terrified right now, so they're going to break off the battlefield. And you guys can see the balance of power is starting to really, really even out right here. So Zabloski is able to break those Knights of the Blazing Sun. So if he can chase those off the battlefield, that is going to be huge. So you can see the Warrior Priest actually uses the Shield of Faith and the Hammer of Sigmar, which is obviously going to spell doom for the rest of the Wood Elf forces. You can see those Glade Guards are retreating, and these Eternal Guards are pretty much offline right now. So he does have the Spellslinger with the Lore of Life up here. I wonder if he has enough for an Earthblood. Honestly, I think if he does have enough for an Earthblood, it might be GG. I'm not sure. It's so incredibly close. And that Warrior Priest is in good shape, and he's kind of keeping all of these Spearmen and other units fighting, because the Benediction ability essentially provides that 8 leadership. It's like a mini Grail Reliquary, and it looks like they discovered something. I wasn't sure if there's something over there, but that Benediction is probably honestly going to keep these guys fighting for so much longer than they normally would, which is pretty good. So the Spellslinger is still lurking in the shadows. It looks like Zabloski is kind of waiting for an opportunity. Ultimately, he's probably waiting for his Winds of Magic on that Spellslinger, which, definitely a good idea to get that Earthblood or that Regrowth, which one more of those, especially a Regrowth, maximizing that healing cap is really, really going to optimize everything. So it looks like he does see that Spellslinger over here, so he uses the Prey of Anathrama to kind of, keep him from chasing and allow this guy to waddle a little bit further. You can see an Arcane Conduit is popped right now. So that's going to get his Winds of Magic a little bit higher, and it looks like the dragon is probably, it looks like he's baiting him right now. I think he was like sitting out there just to try and get the dragon to land to maybe get a few contacts, because honestly, this Wood Elf Lord is to the point, and there's the Earthblood. So now that the Earthblood has been popped, I think he's going to take this opportunity to maybe go for the kill, and he is out of ammunition now. So, he's probably going to be able to chase down the Spellslinger. He has found it. So now is the final showdown. So the dragon is going to land right now. It's going to start fighting, but you can see he's going to get surrounded by spears. His leadership's at 50. Just an incredibly dicey situation. But these guys are all susceptible to fear and terror routing, and if they do, it's pretty much going to be GG. If some of these units start to get terrified, like this Empire Captain, for example, all these state troops are really going to start to suffer. You can see their leadership is incredibly low. They're wavering due to army losses, and that is going to be all she wrote. So that's got to be one of the bigger comebacks I've seen in some time. Seeing that bounce of power at almost 25-30%, like to the point where it looked like he was going to suffer army losses, and he was able to kind of rally and come back. Even with that blunder in the beginning where he just completely lost those Sisters of Thorn, he just fought tooth and nail and was able to do it to it. Super well played to both players. It was pretty cool seeing all these Free Company militia. I definitely think in the beginning there was I think he was so focused on the ambush on the far side, some of this Free Company just got punished in the beginning and weren't able to really generate their value. But nonetheless, it was awesome play by both players. So guys, thanks again for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this long war of attrition. And guys, I got more content coming soon.